Hello guys, I hope you're all doing great. My name is Victor and welcome to another YouTube video. And in this one, I'm going to be going through the exact video that generated me multiple six figures. And I'm going to be showing you guys exactly how you can create your own as well. So here is the video, which I created, like over a year ago now. And I created it once and it generated me easily at least like 100K in dollars. And you guys can even find this video. It's still up on my YouTube channel. So if you scroll back, it's actually my oldest video on the channel. It's got about 6,000 views. And like I said, this one video generated me six figures alone. And I recorded it once and it just kept printing for me. And here are just a few of the results that I was able to generate with this video. So you guys can see over here. In November, we did 1.3, almost 1K, another 1K, a lot of payments. This is like what, if my maths isn't off, 1.5, let's say 2.5, 3.5, 4.2, 6.2, about 6.7K pounds in a week. So that's about 9K USD. You can see in December, it kind of carried on, kept going as well in January. And you guys can even see over here, in November 2024, we did around 2.5, so 5, 8, 11. We did about 12.5K in around 4 days, which is pretty crazy considering that I used to literally make that amount in a whole year. And we were able to make that within 4 days. And a lot of that came through this VSL, through this video, which I'm going to show you guys how you can create. And many more payments you guys can see here, just so you can see how well this video really performed for me. So first of all, why do you need a VSL? Well, a VSL actually stands for a video sales letter. And a big reason why you want to create it is because there's a lot of lack of trust in the market right now. And a lot of the times, if right now you guys are on Instagram, your audience has only consumed your short form content, and that's not enough to build trust. There's only so much value, so much trust that you can show inside of a short form video, inside of short form content. So that's why it's very, very important to have a VSL, which is at least like 5 to 10 to 15 minutes long, where you can really just show more about who you are, what you do, and just build that trust with your audience and nurture them even further. Lack of relatability. Your audience doesn't know your story. They don't know what you've tried in the past. They don't know how you've got to where you are, the obstacles you faced along the way. Especially if you are in the B2C market, relatability and showing your own personal transformation is going to be very, very powerful so that your audience can really relate to you on a deeper level and they can really see that you are someone that's been where they are now and that you have the authority and you have the skills to actually help them get from where they are now to where they want to be. Okay. And then number 3, lack of proof. Your audience doesn't actually know whether what you do works and who you've helped so far. And having a VSL is a very easy way to just showcase all of your results, all of your client results, all in just one video. And, that's just going to show them that you know what you're talking about, and it's just going to boost your credibility and boost your authority even more. Now, what is the goal of the VSL? Now, very important and a very common mistake, which I see a lot of people make if they do already have a VSL in place, is you do not want to sell the process of your product on the VSL, right? You want to save this for the call. If you start describing the process of your product on the VSL itself, then that's going to answer a lot of their questions already for them. And that way it's going to kill that curiosity for them to actually have the initiative to want to jump on the call with you and to want to ask you more questions. Okay. So that's why it's super important to not sell the process, but sell the idea of them working with you and show them that trust, relatability, and proof that, you know what you're talking about. So you want to basically portray your story so that they can relate to you and they can see that you are once in their shoes. You want to basically sell them the idea of wanting to work with you in particular rather than someone else. And you do that by really going deep into your story, your struggles, the emotions you were facing throughout the journey. And how can you make them confident that you are the person that can actually help them? 70% of the VSL should be really talking about you, your story, and your personal transformation, especially if you are in the B2C market, because the B2C market are a lot more emotional buyers compared to the B2B market, which is a lot more logical. Okay, so a lot of you guys watching this are going to be in the B2C market. However, if you are in the B2B market, then of course you can talk less about your transformation and talk more about results, client results, and about the actual process of your product and kind of how it works. But if you are in the B2C market, you really want to sell the emotions, okay? Show them that you are the person that can actually help them. All right, so let's actually go through the process of building your own VSL. So the first and most important part of the VSL is going to be the hook, okay? This is going to be like the first 30 seconds of your VSL. And it's one of the most important parts because it's going to determine how many people are actually going to watch your whole VSL till the end. If you can't grab their attention within the first 30 seconds, then they're most likely just going to skip, and they don't have the attention span to watch the whole 10 minutes or however long your VSL is going to be. Especially once again, if you are in the B2C market, that kind of market's attention span is a lot lower compared to B2B, existing business owners. So you want to make sure that you really capture their attention within those first 30 seconds. And like I said, this is really going to determine how many people will watch this video till the end. And if you do this part right, then your retention rate is going to be a lot higher. So you want to really focus your time on perfecting your hook at the very start. Okay, and here are some ideas of the hook templates. You really want to call out your ideal client avatar so that if they can relate to you, they're going to want to watch the video to the end. So for example, here are two kind of templates that you can use for the hook. So number one is like a call out template. So if your ideal client avatar, you want to type in your ideal client avatar there, and you want to achieve desired outcome without pain point 1, without pain point 2, then I made this video for you. So for example, relating back to my own personal VSL, if you're an introvert and you want to achieve, 5 figures per month without having to show your face online, without having to spend any money on ads, then I made this video for you. Or if you're a fitness coach, for example, and you're helping people lose weight, then you can say something like, if you're right now overweight and you want to lose 10 kilograms without having to have, boring diet plans or without being on the treadmill every day, which are, 2 common pain points in the market, then I made this video for you, right? So you can really customize this template towards whatever niche you're in. Those are just 2 examples from the top of my head. And then another template as well is your success. So you can relate back to yourself, to your own story, to your own transformation. Here's how I achieved desired outcome without pain point 1, without pain point 2, and without pain point 3. So going back to my own personal example, I can say something like, here's how I achieved 20K per month without ever showing my face online, without spending a single penny on ads, and without using any complicated systems or funnels, right? Those are kind of 3 main pain points that were in my market. And once again, you can do something similar in the fitness market. So for example, here is how I was able to put on 10 kg of muscle without eating boring plain food every day, without doing a certain exercise, and without doing something else, right? I'm not in the fitness market, so I don't know what the biggest pain points are there, but you guys get the point. You want to fill this in with your kind of ideal client avatar. And yeah, the more you understand your market, the better you can actually make those hook templates, because you understand exactly what kind of pain points and what emotional triggers are going to make your audience want to watch till the end. Okay, so that's the very first part, is mastering your hook. And this is going to be one of the most important first steps. Next, you want to move into your story. And this is going to be one of the most important parts after the hook as well, because like I said, this is really going to share your whole story. It's going to help your audience get to know you on a much deeper level. And it's going to really show your own personal transformation that you've made. And if you are selling high ticket coaching, then you know that, high ticket sales is all about transformation. So if you can show that you've made the transformation yourself, then that's going to be a big first step to actually showing people that you can help them as well, right? So first of all, the intro, right? So this is going to be the beginning of your story. How did your life look like before you started? What was the trigger point that made you want to actually start whatever you're doing? Relate this to your ideal client avatar's current situation as much as possible, and really get into as much detail as possible to really show your vulnerability. And people bond over insecurities. So, the more detail you can go into, the more you open up, the more vulnerable you show yourself, the more your audience is going to trust you and respect you, because not a lot of people open up like this, and a lot of people have this, fake guru persona online. So they really respect people for, keeping it raw, keeping it authentic, and really going into detail on their story. So, I'm going to give you guys a rough example of my story. I was saying that back in the day, I was in university, I was a broke student, I was working a job in construction for £10 per hour. I would, really hate going to that job. And I really went into detail of, how I would wake up at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. I would have to travel there for an hour and a half. I would have to sit there for 8 hours straight, just doing repetitive tasks. And then on the way back, I would get caught in the London rush hour and have to sit there for another hour and a half in a big, crowded, sweaty train. And then basically just repeat that process, 5 days a week for a long time, right? And that really attracted fellow Londoners to me as well, because they can relate to that. If anyone watching this is from London, you can really relate to that story as well, and how frustrating it is to be caught in that, London rush hour and going to work and doing the same thing every single day, right? So that really showed my vulnerability and kind of showed where I was. I also went into detail of how I used to be addicted to video games. So that also targeted the more student market. And the story about my work targeted the more 9-to-5ers, right? So that's kind of my story summarized. That's kind of how I went into the intro. Then you want to transition it into the failure pain. So what did you try to do to achieve the desired outcome? Nothing seemed to work and you felt like giving up. Talk about the small details and specific scenarios to make the prospect want to relate to you, make it emotional, share your hardships. People respect you more for opening up, like I said. So for me, once again, going back to that old story, in construction when I was working every day, that's kind of where I flipped the switch and I told myself, okay, cool, I need to do something with my life. I can't do this for the rest of my life. And that's when I first started looking for different ways to make money online. And then in my story, I mentioned how, I didn't just magically start making money. I had like 1 or 2 years of hardships, failures, getting scammed, trying, many, many different business models, and nothing seemed to work. And then I finally came into this business model, which leads me onto the solution, right? So what was the big turning point for you? And this is the solution that took you from your current situation to your desired situation. And this was the big moment of realization and the epiphany moment. Make your ideal client avatar feel like this is a solution that could also work for them. And typically, a lot of the times, a lot of VSLs I see, this would be making your first big investment in a mentor, which really changed your mindset and really gave you the guidance and the clarity that you needed to help you make that transformation. Okay. So for me, my big kind of solution, going back to my own story, was finding Instagram theme pages. At that point, that was the business model that really, helped me get out of the rat race, that helped me make my first money online. And that was the perfect business model for me as an introvert because I could grow an online audience. I didn't have to show myself and I could still make money online, right? And then I also go through the hardships of starting that business model for the first time, how it was very difficult to grow, how it was difficult to make money. And then after around 3 months, I decided to finally make my first investment into a mentor. And that's where the whole game changed for me, right? So that was kind of my solution, my epiphany moment is finding the business model that suited me, that suited my characteristics as an introvert. I didn't have to show myself. I didn't have to, run money on ads, which I didn't have. It was very simple, right? And then also making that first big investment into a mentor, which really just changed the game for me as well. Okay, so that was my solution. And then the transformation. So show how you overcame the failure, the pain, you applied the solution and you reached the desired outcome. Show a picture of your before, your after, especially if you're in the fitness niche, you want to be very kind of graphic about this because showing your exact before and your after is going to be very powerful for people that want to also get in shape or lose weight or gain muscle, whatever it may be. And this will easily help paint the picture for your ideal client avatar and show them that you were in the exact same position as them and you were able to reach the desired outcome by applying the solution and by overcoming these failures and these pains. Okay. And you want to really share how you felt after achieving this transformation. Okay. So for me, I went from applying the solution, finding a mentor, and then I think within around 3 to 4 months, I scaled to 1 or 2K per month consistently, which was enough for me to finally quit my job, go all in online. And then after about 6 to 12 months, I scaled to 10K per month, which was the big kind of level for me. And yeah, I basically shared how I was able to, start traveling the world, to work wherever I wanted, give back to my family, treat them a little bit, and how I kind of felt throughout that whole process. And that really related to my audience and towards my ideal client avatar, who were also, maybe stuck in university, studying something they hated, or they were in a 9 to 5 job and, they just didn't know what they were doing, right? So transformation, this is essentially like the summary of, where you were, the kind of failures you overcame and the solution you applied to reach a desired situation. And this is going to be like the summary of your story, and also you're gonna use this a lot in your marketing message as well and showing your overall transformation. So yeah, this is basically the story. You want to go into as much detail as possible, really show your vulnerable side and show your audience that you're a relatable figure and you're just a normal guy. You're not just a guy that's a complete genius that made it. You want to really show yourself and who you really are and where you came from, where you are, and people will respect you for that. And like I said, especially in the B2C market, if you can show that you're relatable, if people can see themselves in you, then there's a very high chance they will want to learn from you directly. Okay, so that's the next part. The story is very, very important. And then moving on to the next part, which is case studies and testimonials. So now that your audience know your transformation, they must know that you can do it for others. So here is the way you want to bombard them with as many client results, testimonials, and case studies as possible to really show your audience that you've not only achieved the transformation for yourself, but you've also achieved this for other people. And if you can show them that, then they're basically almost guaranteed to buy from you, because why shouldn't they? It makes sense. You build up the emotions, and now they can justify those emotions with logic because they can see that you've also helped other people in their position as well. So you want to bombard it with as many results as possible. Make sure you go into as much detail as possible with each client story, their current situation, the problem they were facing before they met you, what they tried to do in the past to solve this problem, and how they feel now in the desired situation. And this will not only help them relate to you, but also relate to the people that you already helped. Okay, so very, very powerful, guys. And yeah, this will just help you build an insane amount of trust and show them that you are the person that can actually help them as well. So if you have client results already, really leverage testimonials, case studies as much as you can. If you don't have any results yet for your clients and you are a beginner starting out, then you really want to leverage your own results and your own transformation a lot more. But if you can combine the two and you do have both of these, then definitely leverage it in your favor. Because like I said, if people understand that you've made the transformation yourself, that's the very first step. That's already, a lot of credibility, first of all. But then if you can top that up with showing how you've helped other people as well, then that's really just going to double down on everything, and really show them that you know what you're talking about and that they can also get help from you as well. Okay, so that's case studies and testimonials. And then after you've got them in an emotional state and they are really hooked, watching the video, here's where you want to directly call them out. So first of all, you want to go through who is this for? You want to list 5 to 10 points, and the more you can describe how they're feeling in their current situation, the better. So for example, for me, I really went into detail on how people feel in the 9 to 5 rat race. They feel lost, they feel depressed, they don't have any direction in life, they don't know what they need to be doing. They feel like they're just repeating the same cycle over and over again, or they might be addicted to short-term pleasures. They don't have anything that they're doing that makes them want to go forward or makes them passionate about life. I really went into detail on that. Of course, you guys want to go into detail on your own ideal kind of avatar, really relate it back to your own story. Also go into blaming their failures. This is a very common thing for the B2C market in particular. The chances are that your product is also similar to something that they've tried in the past, which hasn't worked for them. So the goal here is to rekindle their belief and for you to present your offer as a new opportunity for them, which is different to what they've already tried before. Right? You want to present your offer and your transformation as something new, something unique, and something that's going to be able to help them, especially if they've already tried something in the past. They need to see that what you've got is actually different, is new. So, an easy way of doing that as well is, potentially trashing on other competitor offers as well and tell them why it hasn't worked for them in the past, right? So for example, you can say that, other people say that you need to be spamming ads when you're just getting started, but in reality, you don't need to run ads when you're first starting out. Or for example, you can say how, all of these gurus want to help you, but no one's willing to do the one-on-one support. No one's willing to give you a customized action plan, right? And you're going to be there every step of the way, holding their hand, and really giving them that support that they need as a beginner to help them achieve the transformation. That's also another powerful one, because helping someone one-on-one is very, very powerful, especially if you are a beginner coach and you might not have that much results or case studies or testimonials to back it up. One of the most valuable assets you do have, which you can give to someone, is your time. So people will really value that. So you can also show that when you do go over blaming people's failures and maybe why something hasn't worked for them in the past, because just having a course itself usually doesn't lead to great results. And then you want to top it off with how is your offer different. So state which part of your offer in particular is different and mention your unique vehicle that will help them reach their goals. So for me, the big unique thing with my offer back in the day was the fact that I could help people make money online without showing themselves. And in that market, when I was kind of scaling, a lot of people also would claim that they could help people without showing themselves. But I was actually one of the only people in the market that would generally help people, without showing themselves. And I also wasn't showing myself. Whereas the other people in the market, they would say that they can help people without showing themselves, but they were also running a person around where they're showing their face every day, right? So that was kind of my unique vehicle. That was my unique offer. And that's why people lent more towards me, because if they were also an introvert, they would rather learn from a fellow introvert that really has done this without showing themselves, rather than learning from someone that claims they can help people make money online without showing themselves, but they are showing themselves, right? So you need to identify your own unique vehicle that's going to help you stand out and that's going to want to make people work with you rather than someone else. And you want to package this in a way that really makes them feel stupid for not deciding to work with you earlier. And this is going to really just put them in a high emotional state and then lead them into the next steps, at which you should already basically have the 90% sold. And here you want to explain the next step they need to take in order to move forward with you and in order to find out more information on how they can start working together with you. So if you are in the B2C market, then I would recommend to have a Typeform application. So redirect them to a link where they can apply to work with you. And over here, you can have more questions to qualify them further. And this is going to be a lot better for the B2C market, especially if you have a lot of leads coming in, as it's going to be an easy way for you to disqualify and qualified leads. And if you are in the B2B market, you have much higher quality leads, you have more professional people you work with, then you can have a link to the calendar right away. Okay. So, you can just have a calendar link straight away. They can book with you. And this will also help if you don't have a lead overload. So even if you're in the B2C market and maybe you have a smaller brand and you don't have an issue with a lead overload, then you can also just have a link straight to your calendar, just to save time, just to really make it even easier for people to book a call with you. And yeah, if you're on the B2C market, I would recommend to have a Typeform application. And yeah, that basically wraps up the structure of this video. So you guys can see that is how I structured my own video. That is essentially how you want to structure your own. And yeah, having a VSL like this is going to help you guys, generate a lot more leads, and it's going to help you nurture your audience. Have the hook, the story, case studies, testimonials, call out, go into the next steps, and I guarantee you guys will generate a lot more leads, and you can also generate a lot of money with this, like I did. Okay, so with that being said, if you are a creator or you're a coach and you do want help with starting or scaling your very own coaching business, then feel free to click the link below in the description, and you can have a chat with me and my team to see how we can help you build this out, in even more detail, or in general, help you out with any other aspects in the coaching business. And if not, then all good. Just leave a like, drop a subscribe, and I'm going to be keeping posting this kind of value so you guys can learn even more from me on YouTube. But like I said, if you do want to be a lot more hands-on with me, you want even more support from me, then yeah, feel free, click the link below and we can see how we can help you. And if we can't help you, then you don't even pay. So it's completely risk-free. Feel free to click the link below. And other than that, guys, I will see you in the next videos. Take care. Bye-bye.